All right, we'll get started. Three celebrities: Repp, Holocaust survivor, Nazi hunter, and someone I hopefully who considers me a friend. Sarah Yaren, who organizes and helps them get here. My mom, Shelley Van Derven. I'm going to turn it over to Jack. Like I said, we just expect your respect, your attention, and hopefully you can continue his story by sharing it with anybody that you come in contact with. I'm going to pass it over to Jack.
So you all get parked, I'll be ready to start now. Now, if you all came down here for a good time, or for play, or for entertainment, you better get out before I start. Because I came down here to give you my time, and I don't get paid for that. But what I'm going to tell you, it's not going to be too pleasant listening. I hope I'm not going to spoil your lunch. Can everybody sit down? My name is Jack Repp. I was born in Radom, Poland. I came from a family of 4 brothers, 1 sister. I had a father, I had a mother, I had uncles, aunts, cousins, nieces, nephews, even grandparents. September 1, 1939. The Germans marched in, day turned to night. They marched in and everything was normal for the first 30 days. After the first 30 days they came in, took out the entire school, the principal, the assistant principal, all the teachers, and all the students, and they took us out on a work assignment. And they took us out on a work assignment. You would have thought the work would have been of some use, but the work was of no use. They prepared 2 piles of molten stone, one on one side, one on the other side. And then they took the principal, the assistant principal, and all the teachers to show the pupil how to work, the students. Picked up the stones, they picked up the mud. Just to show you what you can expect. The principal, the assistant principal, and all the teachers got beaten up, thrown in the mud, and then they start walking with the stones and mud from one place to another place. But in Germany, there's no such a thing as walk. It was los, then you got to run. If you didn't run, they got more beaten. Then you can imagine what's going to happen to you when you're going to take over the work. Well, the pupil that went over started doing the same type of work. Each one of us was beaten up, thrown in the mud, and we did that work for about 3-4 hours. At that time, I was 15 years old. There were children between 11 and 16 years old. After working on it for 3-4 hours, you get a little bit hungry. You need a sip of water for the nice, hot, warm afternoon. So, they need a volunteer to go over to get some water. So you ask the Obersturmführer, the Commandant, können wir Wasser haben? Ja. So he tells me, you can have some water. So I volunteered. After I volunteered, they took me, took out 2 guys from the line, tied up my hands, and after they tied up my hands, they hung me by my hands, and they beat me with leather whips until the blood came out of my back. Cut me down and went back to work. Worked on it for about another 4 hours. Well, they needed some more volunteers. Nobody would volunteer no more. Kids got hungry. After working on it for 12 hours, each one of us got beaten up, thrown in the mud, and run home. Well, I came home. You would have thought when I got in the house with a bloody back, dirty, muddy. You parents, my father was a very learned man, would ask, what's happened? So the first thing my father and mother did, they cleaned me up, they give me dry clothes, they set me down, they fed me, and after they fed me, my father started telling me, using psychology on me, at 15 years old. The Germans are here, not forever, they're gonna be down here for a month, 6 weeks, 2 months, they'll be gone. And then he started questioning me what the work consisted of. After telling him what the work consisted of, ladies and gentlemen, my father got up from the table, he had a little library. He went over, picked up a book. You know, even at 15 years old, it goes through your mind. What in the world does that book have to do with what's happened to me down there? But my father went over and brought back a book. When he sat down, the book was called the Haggadah. In case if you don't know what the Haggadah is, Haggadah, we the Jewish people who observe Passover. You observe Easter. In that book, you went from page to page to page. You know, there was a time in history where we the Jewish people were slaves under the Pharaohs. It came on that page. It tells you the work you did was not called work. You see, it was something to take your youth away, take your intelligence away, downgrade you, made you to nothing. You see? But after this, everything went back to normal. Next day we went back to school, and for the first 30 days, ladies and gentlemen, you would have thought that's nothing happened. One nice afternoon they came in. They took out nothing but the Jewish children. What they did, they took us out. Where did they take us? They had prepared for us a place, it's called a slave labor camp. When we got in down there, before you got in, the commandant came out. He said, can you read this sign? The sign said, Arbeit macht frei. Work will make you free. So, after this, we got in. It was called a roll call. And at that roll call, ladies and gentlemen, our names were erased. My name used to be Yitzhak Shevkevich. From now on, you're going to be number 828. Häftling number 828. That means you are a prisoner, 828. You know, ladies and gentlemen, we were not even tattooed. I was in 7 camps, between slave labor camps and concentration camps. Each camp I arrived, they knew my number. You know, what do you think they had prepared for us? The work they prepared for us was an ammunition factory. It's called Steyr Daimler Push Aktionsgesellschaft Waffenfabrik. In case if you don't know what I said. So I'm going to let you know a little secret. If you drive today a Mercedes, you drive a BMW, Chrysler, that same goon is among us down here in America. I worked for him for 2.5 years, slave labor. Ladies and gentlemen, after this, I'm gonna let you in a little secret, but you have to get your system adjusted because you stayed on that roll call from 5 a.m. till about 7, 8 in the morning. And then they came out. They brought out, call it coffee, ersatz coffee. In case if you don't know what ersatz coffee is, it's imitation, a coloring of coffee. Sweetener, saccharin. You get a slice of bread like you take out from Mrs. Bird's bread. Thin slice of bread, dark bread, not white bread. So you think for lunch you're going to get something to eat. So I want you to get to know how you got to prepare your life for. You know what you got for lunch? A little bit dirty water. If you look for a piece of peel of a potato, you have to have a microfiber glass. You live that type of life. You live with the same clothes, but you came from at home. You prepared a barrack down there. You think you would have a bed. It was a wooden shelf. No mattresses. No sheets. No pillows. Pillowcases. No blankets. And on that shelf, you stacked in people like sardines. The only way you can live down there or lay down there would be either in the right side or on the left side. You couldn't turn around. But you get used to that. But you see, ladies and gentlemen, have you got any teachers down here between you all? Are you a teacher? Are you a history teacher, sir? That's the guy I want to talk to. You know, I'm going to go back to 1937. That was the year when I was bar mitzvah. I was 13 years old. And at that time, there was a treaty signed, sir, between Molotov and von Ribbentrop, a non-aggression pact. Do you know who von Ribbentrop and Molotov was, sir?
Foreign ministers of Germany and Russia.
I beg your pardon?
Foreign ministers of the Soviet Union and
I
Germany.
couldn't hear.
Foreign ministers of the Soviet Union.
One of them was the Soviet Union and one of them was from Germany. See, at that time they signed the treaties. It was a non-aggression pact with a provision in it. The provision was, when they're going to go in or get in, one of them come from one side, and one of them come in from the other side, they divided Poland. In 1941, Hitler decided he's going to overrun Russia. So what's happened? At that time, they brought everybody back from the ammunition factory, and they brought us back to the camp, and we went through a selection at that time. After 2 years. You know what the selection was? The goon came out at that time. That's Obersturmführer. And what did he tell you? The Russians are coming. So we're on Russia. So he says the Russians are coming. You know, if the Russians are coming, we're going to be free. And at that time, you see there's such a thing, it's called a sadist. And the sadist, ladies and gentlemen, is very good. I learned that myself too, how to read faces. And if you had a little smile on your face, he took you out. You got killed for that. Well, then, you see, when you got in a camp 5,000 to 6,000 people, you want to kill people, you don't have a crematorium, you take them out on dead marches. In case if you don't know what the dead march is, either will take you out when the heat's going to burn or it's going to freeze. See, that's the reason today I came into the cane. I got very bad arthritis in my knees. us out on a dead march from Radom to Kozienice. 42 kilometers. 5 days. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, we all live by eating, but this is one thing you never got. If you couldn't walk, they left you laying there. We arrived in Kozienice, and we had a roll call. And at that roll call, ladies and gentlemen, they told you you're going to go take a shower. And you're going to go take a shower, ladies and gentlemen, so the boys undressed on one side, the girls on the other side, and after a short while, after 2 years, you couldn't tell who's a boy and who's a girl because we were skeletons. You see, ladies and gentlemen, it's not only you don't get to eat, they kill you. The dirt, the lice, will eat you alive. He knew when you got to get in down there to take a shower, we already had information from underground. You see, if you're going to go and take a shower, there's always an entrance, but you never find an exit. That means if you're going to get in, but you will never get out. So I was brought up, before I'm going to die, my Israel, I don't know, Eichot, and we got in down there. We stayed down there 4 or 5 days. And after 4 or 5 days, you room even to turn around besides if somebody died. You could sit down on him, or maybe have a little more room. But, you see, God works in mysterious ways. Why do I say God works in mysterious ways? We were sold. Who were we sold to? We were sold to Werner von Braun. In case if you don't know who Werner von Braun was, ladies and gentlemen, and if Hitler had his way, you and I would not be sitting down here, and I would not be able to tell you my testimonial. You know why? When he said, heute Europe for missiles for outer space. And if Hitler would have succeeded at that time, you and I would not be here. Because, ladies and gentlemen, each one of you heard about 6 million men, women, and children were murdered for no other reason but they were Jewish. But, you know, ladies and gentlemen, not for 1 second were you immune because you were not Jews. I want you to know one thing. The reason I say that, after 6 million Jews, 5 million others were murdered. And I get the most intelligent, the most educated, and ask them who the 5 million others were. Do you know who the 5 I beg your pardon?
Gypsies, religious protesters, disabled.
Very, very nice, ma'am. Gypsies, homosexuals, undesirables. Isn't that what you said? You see, I know. But let me let you know a little secret, my dear lady. The 5 million others were nothing but people, educated people, people with genius minds. The ones you brought up. So you see, ladies and gentlemen, there was nobody, but nobody was immune. But at that time, we came out, they took us back to the camp, to Radom. And what's happened in Radom? The Angel of Death came. We had another roll call. And at that roll call at that time, 40% of the people we had lost in that death march. We came back. The angel of death, we went through this election. You know, there was a kid right next to me down there. I went since the first grade from a fine, fine family. That played with his mouth. What did you play with your mouth? You know what he told him? Each one of us, when we left home, whatever parents could do to help at that time, maybe giving the mother's earrings, maybe a piece of gold, maybe some money, maybe you'll be able to get a piece of bread for it. He swallowed a little loose diamond. A line. The assessment came down from the tower and asked him, tied up his hands and took him over to the fence. If you got within 8 feet to that fence down there, you got electrocuted. He didn't get electrocuted, but what he did, when he took him over, he took out 2 guys from the line. I was to the right, and another guy from the left. He took out his bayonet and give it to that other kid. I found that little diamond. I cleaned it up and I handed it to him. And I thought I would come back in the line and I would have been immune from it. The angel of death, my time came. After they checked me out, I can give you my word of honor, I didn't even know I had that. But I had a little gold feeling. Rusted, dirty flowers. Took out 2 guys from the line. Just another kid to pull all of my teeth to get that piece of gold. But you see, ladies and gentlemen, how God works in mysterious ways. Now, something like this happens, you got that antibiotics, penicillins, otherwise you die. See, God works in mysterious ways. If you have years to live, you survived that. I did. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to sit down here and give you my testimonial. But you see, my mouth was bleeding. Do you think I was able to get a sip of water? I used my own urine to rinse my mouth. And from that, now this time, we walked, and finally we got some boxcars. A boxcar, you know, 50, 60 people, 50, 160, you stuck them in lead sardines. You know what? We arrived in Germany. So we left Stuttgart, Ludwigsburg, Bibblingen, Weingen, Hessendorf, Schwäbisch. It's good, my gosh. God worked in mysterious ways. Even today, when I see you or I hear your name, I remember you. Now, I'm only 48 and a piece now, but so I remember. So I want you to know one thing. When we arrived in all the places that took us back to a place that was called Weingen Ends. In Weingen Ends, we started working in the factory down there, building missiles. We worked on it for about 6, 7, 8 months. The Allies, they came. That bomb. The most beautiful music to my ears, even today. They bombed the factory. But you know what? They needed some people to to volunteer to go out. What did I go out to do demolition work? You know what demolition work is? You know, we stayed down there, my gosh, and they tried to get us to rebuild the factory down there. But finally, we did have the work down there. They took us down to stone mine. Coleman Tower. You know, I had a department store here in America for 40 some odd years. You got to have secure floors, steel-toe shoes, coveralls, you need gloves, you need have nothing like that. Matter of fact, I lost my soles for my shoe, my wooden soles. I lost them, my feet were wrapped with some paper from a cement sacks with some wire. But if you have years to live, you know how many times I brought it back already? 12 times. God worked mysterious ways. He keeps you alive. You see? We didn't finish up the factory down there. They came. We got to go on another dead march. At every dead march, you lose people. You know why? You cannot work. But you know, really God worked mysterious ways. How we survived, which I'm going to get to it. But you see, at that time, they took us out from there, and they took us to a place that's called Hessenthal. When we arrived in Hessenthal, ladies and gentlemen, they came in, they had already had down the people. There must have been that camp several thousand people, and we came in down there about 2,000, from 7,000, 8,000 people. 2,000, there must have been about 8,000 people down there. The commandant came out. What did he come out with? Häftlingen, that means prisoners. Down here. One of you. Good, you're going to have a good life. But you see, this guy did not lie to you. You're going to have a good life. But you see, in the morning, when you had a roll call, next day, he came out with a plate with the finest torte you have ever seen. In case if you don't know what torte is, it's about 5-6 layer Viennese pastry. He puts a piece in his mouth. He drops a pretty good sized piece. You know, ladies and gentlemen, he promised you he never used a bullet on nobody. 100 lines, each one runs to grab that piece of pastry, which he dropped down. Comes to get up, there's 80, 100 people laying dead. Now, if I can kill with that piece of cake 80, 100 people, you know what I can do? And I will throw in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, the 6,000, 8,000 people which are down there will run after that to grab a piece of that. Comes to get up, there's 100 people, 125 people laying dead. He killed 200 people. He never used a bullet. See how? That's how the sadist works. But he was so nice. His villa was right across the camp, facing the camp. In the morning on roll call, he came out and a plate with food. and just for recreation, he pinpointed, killed 5 same people. That's just to entertain himself. You see, you get used to that. And you see, ladies and gentlemen, and at that camp, the cold in the wintertime, the frost, another man, that sadist, had a way of killing you. How did he kill you? Get dirty, nasty. This is your towel. This is you cover up your blanket. This is your sheets. That little round cap you got on, you wipe up yourself with it. The lice eating you alive. You see people dying. And at that camp, he didn't even have a crematorium there. But you know what? When you go through that selection twice a day, you cannot walk. If you walk the way I walked in down here with my niece, you picked up. And if you have a fireplace at home, you know how you stack up wood for the fireplace for the winter time? That's how they stacked up the people. People, you take out a couple guys from the line. Called NAFTA in Europe. He gives you a bottle of that. 2, 3, 4, 5 kids that will say, I could still work if I tells you, if you're not going to burn them, I'm going to burn you. And he gives you a match to throw. After you throw the girl, to live that type of life. You see, gentlemen, and in that camp down there, God worked mysterious ways. Dallas came, and this time we got to go out on another dead march. We got on a dead march, and finally they got some. Then they got some boxcars. I don't know how far we went, but all of a sudden the train stopped, the doors opened, and 2 men came in civilian clothes, and then on a Red Cross band on the arm. And what do they say to you? We are from the Swiss Red Cross. The war is at end. You might survive. If you can remember a name, a country, a place, from anyone, anywhere, ladies and gentlemen, used to pull tricks like that. And the tricks they pulled on you where if they see a little smile on your face, the war's at end, they kill you for that. But you know, how many times I had brought up down here, God works in mysterious ways. So what have I got to lose? God implanted my mind to get mail from America. The mail we got from America, I always used to save stamps. And I always took off from the envelope the stamps. In fact, you know, you don't eat, you don't drink, you're cold, you're full of lies. You don't remember things like this. God worked in mysterious ways. From what I took off the stamps, same swords, Greenville, Texas, Price, Tux. That was it. I give it to him. But you see, 1937, the year I was getting ready for my bar mitzvah. A young man came from Paris, France. When he arrived from Paris, France, I was a neighbor of our son. I had we used to get the mail because they got married. See, France was occupied by Hitler too. Not only was Hitler down there, but they had the Vichy government. Another Hitler down there. What am I going to tell you? You see, by looking at that time, God still implanted something for mine. So what did he implant? By taking off the stem. And I give it to him. But God worked mysterious ways. They left. And what did they do? At that time, they took us and finally they stopped and we go on a march. From there, we went to the Black Forest. We arrived at the Black Forest. Buildings on earth pumps. And then from there, a little while, they took us to my last place where we all arrived. But each one had arrived at that time. And I give you my word of honor, neither one of us knew where we are, or what's wrong with us, or what's happened to us. You know where they took us? That place that's called Dachau. That was the last camp I was in. In Dachau, they had a roll call. But neither one of us can stand up no more. Each one of us had typhus. What did you get the typhus from? From malnutrition, from the dirt, from the cold. And they lined us up. Stayed down there. The crematorium was burning people 24 hours a day. One morning, there was no roll call. No roll call. Some young men came, and what did they say? Folks, you are free, you are free, you are free. But neither one of us could speak English. I couldn't speak English, nobody else could. So we thought, the goons, they put some kind of trick on us. By laying dead anyway down there because we couldn't walk no more. But there's always an angel. A young man came with 2 pieces gold. You know what? He could speak my language. You know what he said? Het zijn alle vrije mensen. That's in Jewish, you all are free people. Ladies and gentlemen, after he said that, there's some young men from outer space because they had everything was covered up, their faces covered. Now I know it's plastic. Gloves, you couldn't see a face. You see, we all had typhus. We're all a bit dirty. Could walk. So they had to pick us up. And the first thing they did, then they showered us. Then they threw out the Germans from the hospital, put us in hospital beds. I was 21 years old at that time. I weighed 69 pounds. And ladies and gentlemen, I stayed down there in the hospital for 4 months. You know, after 4 months, the first time in 6 years, I went down to the bathroom and I saw a mirror. I saw a piece of paper for human use. And I had on a little shirts. I had on a little pair of pants. I had a little bit skin on me. I had a little bit hair on me. And I give VIE Zolokine. Where should I go? I knew my parents didn't survive. We had at that time, we had lots of connections to some of the underground. I saw I can move. I can walk. Where did I go? I went back to the place where I was liberated in Dachau. I came down there were 2 young men. See, now I know I can speak English. It took me 90 days to learn the language. You know what? I asked him to see the man with the 2 pieces of gold on his shoulder. He can tell who I am from where I come from. So he pulled out a piece of chocolate from me, so I didn't know what. I don't have no place where to go. So I left him and I went over to the other young man down there. Used to be a little package, but that big. Later I found out it was chewing gum. What does he tell me? Go home. I've got for mysterious ways. Took up the telephone. And who do you think came down? The men that dressed up, look good. What do you want? I said, I would like to get a job. He took me down. He did send me down with a man. Had a couple stripes on the sleeve. Then later he came down. And they gave me in the kitchen down there to peel potatoes. You know, after 6 years being hungry, dirty, with lies, you take a guy like me, and you send him in, put him down by a barrel to peel potatoes. You think I'm going to put the peels in the barrel? I put them in the inside of my shirts. Peel the potatoes that thick. I'm going to come home, we're going to have a party. But you know what? I got caught. You know, I got caught. After you get caught with something like this, I know the penalty is death. Because, you know, your mind still works. Got a one-track mind. Everything was dead for 6 years. But, no. They took me up to the office. Man with the 2 pieces of gold, I could talk to him. And they brought me back to the kitchen. Then a man came down there. His whole sleeve was full of stripes. Now this one only got 2. He got full of stripes on the sleeve. I don't know what kind of a triple general that is. I don't know. And you know what? The first time in 6 years, a human being, a nice human being, reaches out, he shakes hands with me and tells me, my name is Jan Staszewski. That's Polish. So I started talking to him in Polish, you know, because that's where I was born. He said, my parents are from Poland, and I live in Chicago. So now I got a Jewish guy who speaks Jewish, and the guy speaks Polish. But you know, they took me back to the same barrel down there, and I peeled the potatoes. I had to promise didn't have enough pieces of tissue paper. But you know what? By doing that, I noticed on the corner a table with the whitest bread I thought was cake I have ever seen. It never saw in Poland. Don't white bread like that. You know, I went over there, and you know, ladies and gentlemen, I stole a whole loaf of bread. I went under the chair, under the table, and I ate the entire loaf of bread, and I got caught. This time they're gonna hang me. But you see, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna let you know a little secret. When you are incarcerated like I was incarcerated for 6 years, and I lost my entire family, you know what? You're not afraid for nothing. You know what's happened? They took me up to the office, and this time, you got 2 guys to go up, give me a shower, dress me up in an American uniform, so now I am an American. I just don't speak the language, but I am an American. And what did he ask me? What language do you speak? You see, I was very fast on picking up languages in the camp. I spoke Russian, Czech, Yugoslav, Polish, German, and Jewish, Yiddish, ladies and gentlemen, he says, I tell you what, you're gonna handle from now on everything from the German government for us. But you see, ladies and gentlemen, I did that. But then I'm gonna let you know a little secret. You see, one of you have seen the Paperclip, the movie. Did you see it, young lady?
Yes.
You see, there was a place, ladies and gentlemen, in Tennessee. The place consisted of 18,000 inhabitants down there. 18,000 people. Said 2 stop signs, 2 red lights. They never had a Jewish family down there. But you see the prejudice, the hatred, the anti-Semitism, the bullying was unbelievable. But one day, they brought, like you children, I came down to you all, they took him down to the Holocaust Museum. And when they took him down to the Holocaust Museum, ladies and gentlemen, you know, they all had an assignment, I guess, and Frank to fill out a paper. Then they found out about the 6 million men, women, and children, Jewish people were murdered. So you see, ladies and gentlemen, but I want to let you know that little secret. You don't know how grateful and how thankful and how appreciative you ought to be. By being born down here in America, being called Americans, you don't know what it means when you are called a name or prejudice or bullying somebody. Don't do that. You see, that nobody was immune, like I told you, by the 6 billion men, women, and children because they were Jewish, and 5 million others. But there's one thing I want you to know. Love each other. Be good people. Don't bully each other. Don't call each other names. Be thankful. And God bless America. If you have any questions, ask me. I'll be more than happy to answer. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. It was wonderful. I really enjoyed it.